Deep in the misty mountains of Japan lies a secret that history tried to erase. For centuries, the undefeated blade of Lord Saito was thought to be destroyed. But sometimes things that are hidden are eventually found by the curious. Welcome to the Purely Fiction Society. I'm Knowles, your host, and tonight we travel to the misty Kii Mountains of Japan, to a silent pine forest and a sacred mountain shrine where ancient secrets lie in wait beneath the freezing grey fog. Before the relic was lost to time, it belonged to a legend. This is the story of Lord Saito and the woman who risked everything to find his blade. Join me as we follow a professional ancient weapons expert who discovers that some lost blades carry a weight that time cannot erase. This is the legendary samurai and his lost sword. Kimberly Bennet was not a typical treasure hunter. Raised in the quiet countryside of North Yorkshire, England, she spent her life studying ancient weapons. Her sharp grey eyes and practical dark hair tied back out of the way, she was a woman built for the field, not a library. For 10 years she worked as a historical weapons expert, restoring old steel for museums. But Kimberly had a secret wish: to find the lost sword of a legendary samurai. While translating an old dusty war diary from the 17th century, she found a single sentence that changed her life. The text described a loyal servant who sneaked away from a burning battlefield, carrying the undefeated sword of Lord Saito. The diary claimed the servant hid the weapon inside a nameless shrine on a high, jagged mountain ridge far away from regular roads. Most experts thought the story was just that, a story, but Kimberly spent her life savings to prove them wrong. Now, after days of tracking old maps, she was standing right where the diary pointed. The mountain path had ended hours ago. Kimberly pulled her heavy jacket tight around her shoulders as she pushed through the last line of twisted pine trees. The air here was bitter and thin, freezing the breath in her throat. A thick grey fog drifted across the high ridge, swallowing the valleys below and locking her in complete isolation. Up ahead, rising out of the mist like a dark shadow, was the shrine. It was small, built from weathered cedar wood that had turned completely black over the centuries. The roof tiles were cracked, covered in layers of green moss and frozen pine needles. The entire structure leaned slightly to one side, as if the constant mountain wind was trying to push it off the cliff face. It looked completely abandoned, forgotten by the rest of the world. Kimberly climbed the last few broken wooden steps. Her boots made no sound against the damp earth. She reached out, placing her gloved hands against the old wooden doors. With a firm push, the ancient hinges groaned and the doors slowly swung inward. Inside, the shrine was dead silent. The floor was bare, dark wood, covered in a light layer of dust. There were no statues, no golden decorations, and no offerings. The only object in the entire room was a massive stone table sitting directly in the center. Kimberly walked towards it, her heart thrumming hard against her ribs. Resting on top of the table was the object she had spent her life savings to find. It was a heavy cylinder carved entirely from pure white marble. The pristine stone gleamed strangely in the dim twilight of the shrine, entirely free of dust. Wrapping around its center were multiple intricate rings of polished white marble, inlaid with delicate silver markings. It was a centuries-old puzzle mechanism designed to protect whatever was locked inside. Kimberly did not hesitate. She took off her gloves, exposing her bare fingers to the freezing air. She needed to feel the precise alignment of the stone. She placed her hands on the marble rings. The stone was ice cold to the touch. Slowly, carefully, she began to twist the first ring. It moved with a smooth, heavy resistance. She listened closely, relying on her years of experience working with antique bolts and locks. She turned the second ring, and then the third. With a clean, smooth click, the silver markings aligned perfectly. A deep vibration ran through the stone table. The white marble cylinder split down the center and slid smoothly apart, exposing a lining of faded black silk. There it lay, the sword of Lord Saito. Kimberly held her breath. She gently lifted the weapon out of its silk bed. The scabbard was made of dark wood, wrapped in thick black cord that had not frayed a single millimeter over 300 years. She gripped the hilt, her fingers wrapping around the traditional rayskin wrap. Slowly she drew the blade. The steel was dark, cold, and flawless. The edge was so sharp it seemed to cut the very light reflecting off it. Most swords, left in damp environments for centuries, would be ruined by rust, but Lord Saito's blade was perfect. The diary was right. This was the lethal weapon of an undefeated master. As Kimberly admired the steel, she noticed something peculiar. Near the guard of the sword, etched deeply into the dark metal, was a single line of Japanese characters. Unlike the complex texts she usually translated, these characters were stark, sharp, and simple. She leaned closer, using her knowledge of 17th century dialects to read the inscriptions. The blade honors the master, but the stone demands the truth. Kimberly frowned. She lowered the sword and looked back down at the open marble cylinder. Now that the weapon was removed, she noticed inside the marble housing, at the very bottom of the white marble sleeve, hidden beneath where the sword had rested, was a small circular indentation in the stone. It was exactly the size of a human thumb. Suddenly a loud crack echoed from outside the shrine. Kimberly froze, her muscles instantly locking tight. The sound had come from the wooden steps. It wasn't the wind. It was the distinct sound of a heavy boot snapping a fallen pine branch. She quickly sheared the sword back into its scabbard, holding the heavy weapon tightly against her side. She stepped into the shadows behind a thick cedar pillar near the black back of the room. She pressed her back against the cold wood, forcing her breathing to slow down. Through the open doorway of the shrine, the grey fog began to swirl. A tall figure stepped out of the mist and onto the wooden threshold. It was a man, dressed in heavy modern climbing gear, his face obscured by a dark hood and a thick scarf. In his right hand, he carried a short crowbar. He didn't look like a researcher or a park ranger. He moved with a quiet, aggressive confidence that told Kimberly exactly why he was there. He was a looter. Someone had tracked her. The man stepped into the center of the silent room, his eyes instantly locking onto the open, empty white marble cylinder on the table. He swore under his breath. He could tell Kimberly had already been there. Pulling down his scarf, he turned around, scanning the dark corners of the shrine. He knew she was here somewhere, as the trail ended at the ridge, and there was nowhere else for her to go. Kimberly remained perfectly still in the shadows. Her mind raced. She was alone on a remote mountain peak, with an armed criminal holding an invaluable historical relic that her entire life savings depended on. If she tried to run out the front door, he would catch her instantly. The man began to walk slowly around the stone table, his heavy boots thudding against the floor. He was heading straight towards the rear pillars where she was hiding. He was only 2 pillars away now. Kimberly could see the glint of the metal crowbar in his hand. She looked down at the sword of Lord Saito in her grip. She had spent 10 years restoring weapons, understanding their balance, their weight, and their purpose. She didn't want to fight, but she wasn't going to let someone steal her life's work. As the man stepped past the next pillar, his back temporarily turned to her. Kimberly acted. She did not draw the blade, instead using the heavy wooden scabbard like a staff. She lunged forward out of the shadows. With a swift, practiced motion, she drove the base of the scabbard directly into the back of the man's right knee. The man buckled with a sharp cry of pain, dropping to one knee before he could swing his crowbar. Kimberly rotated her hips, swinging the heavy hilt of the sword upward in a hard arc, striking him squarely across the jaw. The impact cracked through the quiet room. The man collapsed sideways onto the stone floor, the crowbar clattering away across the room. He groaned, clutching his face, completely dazed. Kimberly stood over him, breathing heavily, the sword held firmly in both hands. Her hands were shaking, but her gaze was steady. The man didn't move, completely incapacitated by the strike. Kimberly didn't waste another second. She knew she had to secure the shrine before any other looters appeared, or before this man recovered. She turned back to the white marble cylinder on the table. She remembered the inscription on the blade. The blade honors the master, but the stone demands the truth. Looking back into the hollow base of the marble cylinder, she stared at the cylindrical thumb-sized indentation. On a hunch, she stepped forward and pressed her bare right thumb firmly into the groove. The moment her skin made solid contact with the pure white stone, a heavy mechanical rumble shook the entire floor of the shrine. Behind the stone table, a massive section of the rear wooden wall slid downwards into the floor, completely silent. Revealed in the opening was a small hidden room, entirely sealed away from mountain dampness. Kimberly stepped inside, holding her flashlight upward. The small room did not contain gold or treasures. Instead, it was an ancient archive. Rows of beautiful preserved wooden shelves held dozens of tightly rolled scrolls, all sealed with the official wax stamp of Lord Saito's clan. These weren't just scrolls. This was the complete lost history of an entire forgotten era, preserved perfectly for 300 years away from the fires of war. The diary hadn't led her to a sword. It had led her to the ultimate historical discovery. Kimberly did not touch the scrolls. She did not take the sword. She left it in the hidden room. If she brought them down the mountain, the greedy collectors and the museum politicians would only fight over them. They belonged to the mountain, to the shrine, and they belonged to history. She stepped out of the hidden room and she carefully put the white marble cylinder back together, locking the puzzle rings into place, and with another firm press of her thumb against the white stone groove, the heavy wooden wall slid back into place, sealing the archive away from the world. She turned her back to the dazed looter and picked up his dropped crowbar. She held it in her hands, her gaze cold and steady, as the man fully regained consciousness. He looked past her, his eyes wide, as he took in the sight of the newly opened, priceless ancient archive. He knew exactly what it was worth, but Kimberly knew what he was worth to the authorities. She didn't need threats. She simply laid his own satellite tracking device and climbing log onto the stone table. As an industry consultant, Kimberly knew the international black market laws inside and out. Operating an illegal unregistered excavation inside a protected sacred mountain range carried a non-negotiable 20-year prison sentence under Japanese cultural heritage laws. If she uploaded the active coordinates and passport details to the authorities right now, his career, his freedom, and his life were completely over. The bargain was silent but absolute. If a single word about this shrine or Lord Saito's archive ever leaked to the black market, the anonymous tip to Interpol would be sent instantly. Facing 2 decades in a foreign maximum security prison, the looter slowly nodded, backing out of the wooden threshold and disappearing into the freezing grey fog without a single dollar to his name. Kimberly watched him go, then stepped back to the white marble cylinder. sealing it again. As she stepped out into the misty mountain air, she felt a profound sense of peace. Her life savings were entirely gone, but her professional honor was intact. The legendary blade of Lord Saito was safe in the hidden archive room, the pure white marble cylinder just a decoy, protected by a secret that would never be told. Thank you for listening to tonight's tale from the Purely Fiction Society. Kimberly Bennet lost her savings to prove to the academic world that the treasure existed, but in the end decided that it would be safer kept secret. Would you have done the same thing in Kimberly's place? And would you have let the looter go, or would you have turned him in? Let me know your honest thoughts on her choice in the comments below. If her journey to the shrine gripped you tonight, please hit that like button. And to ensure you never miss our next standalone adventure, make sure you are subscribed with notifications turned on. Until next time, keep believing the stories. Good night.